This podcast is part of E2C Network, where we share the whole Auburn experience.
War Eagle Auburn fans, welcome to No Huddle, your source for Auburn football news and discussion, part of the E2C Network. I'm AJ Richardson. I'm also here with Jared Davis. We finally got ourselves a SEC win. Hugh Freeze got his first SEC win at Auburn. It was a big day on the Plains, and we broke our 4-game losing streak, which felt even better to do that because of just the rest of the games on the schedule and how this the rest of the season can kind of play out if we just got this one win against Mississippi State. Jared, how you doing? How you feeling? We finally got that win. We're back on the win train now.
Yeah, it feels good to talk about, like, from that perspective. It's been a long time since it's been 4 weeks and a bye. So
yeah,
it's been a while, man. And it was one of those, I heard it being floated around, and I don't ever like to use this word, especially this early on, but everybody was saying this is a must win. There is no must win first year in his tenure, but I understood the sentiment. Like, we're at home, even though we weren't playing great, we should be better than them. And then when you found out that Will Rogers and their starting running back were out,
yep,
you almost got even more nervous because you're like, okay, this really is a must-win, and we better not mess this up.
Yeah, for real. When you kind of put it in that framework, you're thinking, well, their two biggest offensive threats are gone, and what are they going to do now with their backup quarterback? And I kind of joked before the game it started, I was like, man, it just feels like Auburn potentially, every time a backup quarterback comes in, we're like, let's make him the Heisman long shot, because that's what it feels like. They seem to come out and just do anything and everything that they want to. And thankfully, we were able to contain them a lot. And that's a big props to Ron Roberts and the defense. We did have some explosive plays, but overall it was a pretty solid showing for us. And then not to mention, kind of overall able to move the ball. I mean, we scored 27 points, and I feel like the second half we kind of just took our foot off the gas a little bit, which I'm kind of in the same boat as I feel a lot of you, that you kind of get a little shades of Gus Malzahn doing that in the second half, and then Mississippi State coming back and beating us. But hey, we still beat them by 14 points, so we can all rest easy knowing that despite pulling off the throttle on offense, it still worked out. We got our W. So I got a general question for you. So I saw this kind of pitched either on Facebook or Twitter, and I thought it was kind of interesting. I never heard of this. You know how we've got the Iron Bowl, you got the Deep South's oldest rivalry against Georgia. You got some names for rivalries. I don't think Auburn and Mississippi State are technically a rivalry, but we have played each other a lot because we're in the same division. What's your thoughts on naming this game? And here's the one that I saw predominantly. It was the cow battle, because Auburn being a cow college and Mississippi State with all their clanging of bells. What's your thoughts on that?
I don't know. I mean, I think not knocking it. I think that a lot of times a named rivalry game, it usually has some back and forth that creates that aspect. Although Mississippi State has had their moments with us that they shouldn't have. Yeah, I hate being called a cow college, if I'm being honest with you. we get it a lot, and the funny thing is, a lot of people don't realize that. I mean, we're not. There are better schools in the SEC, but we're probably top 4 or 5 academic wise. And I know we didn't mean to go this direction, but we do get called the cow college a lot. I mean, the head of Apple, Tim Cook, is an Auburn grad. The guy that created Wikipedia is an Auburn grad. Mm-hmm. There's a long list of things, so it is kind of you can tell that one bothers me a little bit. I wouldn't call it the cow battle. I think that's clever, and I get where you're going with that. But it has been. I think we have played them a lot, though. I thought I heard the number before the broadcast, and I was like, it kind of surprised me. We've played them that many times, so there is a long history there for sure.
Yeah, I mean, in the last 15 years, it's been closer than I think most people would say, but at the same time, over the long run, I mean, Auburn's kind of been the dominant one in this, and rightly so. I mean, Mississippi State, I still don't think has a national championship in any sport. I'm pretty sure of that. Now, maybe they got one last year in like equestrian or something, but I don't think that was the case because Auburn was right there too. So I think we're pretty safe to say like Mississippi State's not really been that, competitive against Auburn over the grand scheme of things. So I don't know. I kind of agree with you. I'm not a big fan of naming these smaller rivalries. I mean, if anything, you're probably going to name the LSU rivalry, which kind of gets the Tiger Bowl a little bit. Sometimes people call it that, but even that's not official. Yeah, I don't think you got to name every game that's some sort of rivalry. So let's talk through a few other things. I was able to go to the game and got to experience some of the fan experience from the game. And the last game I was at was, I'm pretty sure it was a Sanford game. So much bigger game, SEC, and fan experience was pretty good. Fans showed up, especially for a team that had at that point a losing record, 3-4. And fans showed up, were pretty loud. Not as loud as what I'd heard the Georgia was, which, again, I think that's rightly so. But, that's part of an SEC game. You get some crowd involvement, the Jumbotrons, doing great, the DJs working, the band's playing some great songs, and cheerleaders are doing what they do, keep the fans engaged. One of the funny fan experiences was, and I felt it was a little too early. It was like middle of the second quarter, the student section got the wave going. And I was like, guys, I know we're up right now, but I feel like it's a little too early to get the wave going. And they kept the wave going for like, I'm not exaggerating, but like 3 or 4 minutes. I mean, it went around the stadium probably like 3 or 4 times. So I don't know. I wasn't the biggest fan of that. I mean, I liked it to some extent, but usually when you do the wave, it's like the game's way out of hand. And I was like, guys, stop. The game is not out of hand. Like Mississippi State can make a comeback.
They didn't pull the keys out, did they? The keys is the big.
Oh gosh!
You pull the keys out and start shaking them like it's time to go home. That's definitely what you don't want to do in the second quarter.
No, they didn't do that. Or at least I didn't see anybody doing that. Another couple of kind of interesting things. These are related to Aubie. Aubie had a fun dance performance with the Tiger Paws, which is our dance team at Auburn, and very entertaining. Aubie did great. So go check it out on social media if you want. It's a fun, minute or so of him dancing with them. And he looked like, I don't know if you've ever seen, I think it was the Penn State, their mascot dancing with some of their dance line. And it was just about as entertaining as that. Like Aubie definitely knows how to dance, as we all know. Another thing about Aubie, the Friends of Aubie, because obviously Aubie is a living, breathing tiger, and there are Friends of Aubie. There was about 40 or 50, maybe even 60 of them that had a little reunion. Not a little, it was actually pretty big. I had never seen that. Maybe it happens more often than I think, but they were all out there. The Jumbotron got a good shot of them. They were they had Aubie kind of, they were just throwing them up in the air a little bit. It was fun. So pretty cool to see that, just all the different Aubies, and obviously the passed down traditions of national championships, of him winning it as a mascot, and you love to see it. And the other thing at halftime, they didn't do the crazy like halftime show, the lit up helmets and that kind of stuff, but they did do military appreciation because this game was Military Appreciation Week, and that was pretty cool. If you've ever been to an Auburn military appreciation, they do all the different songs of the different military areas, and that was really cool. On top of that, they did some really cool different formations of different things, mostly vehicles like a tank or a airplane or a helicopter. One of the coolest, I think, was a submarine in my mind. And then they had kind of the submarine going underwater, and it just looked cool. I feel like those kinds of cool animations that you can do in a band are just add the little extra to it. So fan experience was pretty good for this week. So I did want to talk about another topic that I feel like has been kind of the hot topic throughout this whole season, coaching. So Jared, this week it seemed like they put together a pretty good plan that worked. I mean, for the first half, we were just like, what is a competent offense? This is what it looks like. This is amazing. How long I feel like competent offenses have been lacking, despite having pretty much offensive-minded head coaches. So what was kind of your overall thought on how we did as far as coaching for this game?
I mean, it definitely, like you said, it looked competent. It looked smooth. I mean, it looked like what we thought we were going to get from game one, I guess, from the staff, in my opinion. I mean, it helps without, I mean, the elephant in the room, right? I mean, Mississippi State is not a great team. Neither are we. Mm-hmm. But I mean, statistically coming into that game, I haven't seen it. I've heard people say that they were better statistically than Ole Miss coming into that game on defense. So, they were, at a bare minimum, they were pretty even with Ole Miss, and we were able to do some things against them we could not against Ole Miss. Mm-hmm. And I really think that was more to do with us than Ole Miss and Mississippi State. I think we did. I think there was a level of he at some point we got to take him at his word. Hugh Freeze was essentially scared in that 4-game stretch to wear his defense thin. And so they played very conservative with the play calls, and I wouldn't have done it because you still lost the games, right? But that was their philosophy, and now you could tell in that Mississippi State game they were more confident to go a little tempo, to open up the playbook. They weren't as scared of, hey, yeah, we may go out there and throw it, and it may be a quick 3 and out, no clock run off, but maybe not. And the maybe not is what happened. We played well. You had receivers making plays. You had Shane Hooks that got pass interfered. I still can't believe they didn't call that.
Oh,
and he
gosh.
made, the touchdown catch. But really, man, to me, we may find out. Let's talk again in 3 or 4 more weeks about how big it was we were missing Javarius Johnson, because we forget he's been our biggest threat the last 2 years, and he's been injured. And we all just kind of thought, and honestly, probably because of his height, we were like, it's not a big loss. Pretty big loss. The dude runs great routes. Mm-hmm. He's a deep threat. And I'll end with this because I know I'm rambling, but so I think you're talking about coaching, right? But I think players are starting to execute as well. And I think the fact that we may have figured out what players can execute. Caleb Burton, we weren't seeing Caleb Burton until 2 weeks ago. Now he's become a pretty big focal point of the offense, and it's not huge gains, but honestly, go back and watch that hold. It was a pass where he was coming across the middle. They were holding him. If they don't hold him, that's probably a 50-yard touchdown because Thorne led him very well. So a couple of players are starting to figure out where they fit in this scheme. The coaches are figuring out what to do with these players. Yeah. And it all came together yesterday in the first half.
Right. Well, and it's those players that you've mentioned. I mean, I think it's maybe a little bit of an exaggeration, but it feels like it shouldn't have taken them that long to figure out some of these players and what they can do.
No, it shouldn't have. And we've been harsh on them. I mean, the coaches shouldn't have taken this long. But
yeah. But at the same time, we knew it was a kind of a long-term goal. I mean, even from like our first few losses, we were thinking, what the heck is this season? What's going on here? And now you're starting to see the build. And I really hope this is the start of that build of, not only this year, but bringing more talent, which Hugh Freeze is already putting together great recruiting classes for next year, 2025, and so on, because that's what we need to do. And so the coaching decisions, while, the last 4 games have been rough, I mean, the best one was Georgia, and we were like, even that, we don't want to claim a moral victory, but it felt not as bad as we thought it could have been against Georgia. And that piece of it, to me, is showing some, improvements from the coaching. and they're, on the offensive side, calling better plays for the guys. Secondarily, it's the defense handling the lack of depth that they seem to have, and Ron Roberts on defense is doing well with that. We did what we needed to against Mississippi State. We kept them out of the end zone until the fourth quarter, which how often does that happen in the modern college football era? Not that often, because guess what? Offenses are pretty potent, and they know how to score points. So props to the coaching staff for putting our guys in a good position to win this game. And I'll mention this a few times. We seemed well coached, and they were well disciplined. We didn't have too many major issues. Yeah, did we have a few false starts and holds and yada yada? Like, yeah, it's gonna happen. But for overall, you got the guys ready to play, and they executed, which is all you can ask for in these kinds of games where you're expected to win, and you do win by 14 points. Let's also talk about, more specifically like the quarterback rotation, which I think is, again, kind of like a pretty related thing to coaching. That's been part of this team's identity so far on offense, is having packages for Robbie. Peyton's still your main guy. And even last week, it was more or less 50-50. And this time it was Peyton Thorne is your guy, and Robbie came in a few plays. Hugh did say that there were some more packages for Robbie, but they just didn't get to them. Maybe this just wasn't the right scenarios or whatever for Robbie. And you know what? I didn't hate it, because Peyton looked comfortable and felt good about what he was doing on the field to keep drives going. And you could tell it. There was an extra level of confidence in Peyton to throw not only the short passes, do some RPOs, but throw some really touchy passes or even long balls. And man, has that been missed? Like, I feel like I forgot what a long pass looked like legitimately without it going to double or triple coverage that gets intercepted. Like, it kind of felt like I'd forgotten.
Well, it's good reason you'd forgotten. I felt like Auburn had forgotten. Yeah, I mean, the QB rotation thing, I'll be honest, it should be over, completely over, in my opinion. This is not, I'd highly doubt Robbie listens to this. Robbie, this isn't against you if you do. But at the end of the day, the offense just runs better with Peyton Thorne. And I was a guy who had said 3 weeks ago, give it to Robbie and let him ride the rest of the year. But I still say Peyton Thorne does the thing better, or the offense operates better on the only reason you're bringing Robbie in. That read option play, it just works better with Peyton. And I think because there is that threat that he may keep it and pass it, so I can't commit to too much here. And so it's leaving it open, and he's a decent runner.
He is. Way better than I think any of us thought.
I don't see any benefit whatsoever. You can tell me I'm wrong, but I see zero benefit whatsoever at this point of bringing Robbie in.
Even like a red zone situation, you're still like, don't bring him in.
I'm okay if you do, but I don't see the point. Thorne can do everything Robbie can do. It's not like Robbie is. So like Tebow, it worked with Tebow and their Leaf. I can't remember his name. It worked with them because Tebow was a very big guy, and so it was like 3rd and 1. We're running it. We're gonna tell you we're running it. You don't have to steal our signs, and you can't stop it because I'm a big guy, right? Ashford is very quick and athletic, but he's not going to overpower you. So I think that Thorne has shown he is also quick and athletic enough to where the thought that he may throw it is keeping defenses at bay, and the read option is working better with Robbie. Thorne. No, I would not. Yeah, Peyton. I would not bring Robbie in.
Yeah, I would disagree a little bit. I feel like there is a spot for Robbie, but it's got to be you have it written up so Peyton knows, hey, if we get within the 20-yard line, Robbie's coming in here for at least a couple plays, see what happens, and if he gets a first down, a touchdown, awesome. But if not, hey, Peyton Thorne, you're going right back out there. Yeah, something like that. I'm personally okay with that.
But let me ask you this.
Some people are not, though.
Let me ask you this, and I am not saying this to get you on my side. I'm genuinely wondering, what does that do that that Peyton Thorne can't do? Bringing him in, what advantage are you getting?
I mean, I do think Robbie is a more electric runner. Is it like if you had to put percentages on it? Like I think Robbie's like if you were playing like a NCAA football game, he's probably got like a 98 on fast speed, juking, running really well, that kind of stuff. And I think Peyton's pretty solid. He's probably like a 85, 90. So it gets you a little bit more, which maybe that in the red zone, I think that's in my mind, that little edge sometimes. I mean, we saw it with Bo Nix. That little edge that some of these, agile quarterbacks have, it can get you that extra yard or get you into the end zone. That's just kind of my general thing. But at the same time, you're not losing that much with Peyton. So, again, I can kind of see both sides, but I'm, again, still fine with Robbie coming in.
I'm giving you credit and props because you brought up the NCAA rating system. So that's I'm giving you props for that.
Yeah. Would you agree with those numbers? Like, or do you think it's lower than that?
No. I've gotten into this debate with people. I think there is zero doubt Robbie Ashford is a better athlete than Peyton Thorne. Like if you're like, hey, I need a guy to run my 40, and I got money on this, I'm picking Robbie Ashford, right? He would destroy Thorne in the combine. I mean, like the athletic skills, and he's done well in the red zone. It just appears that either he's not reading the read option correctly, or the defense doesn't have to worry about the pass, and so it's not working as well as it is when Thorne's in. So my whole thought on all this, there's nothing you said that's wrong. But if Thorne has got you down there, let's say you're going tempo, Thorne's got you down there, you're inside the 20, don't kill your own tempo and bring in Robbie, because I don't think the advantage, if there is one, is enough of an advantage to slow your own self down, if it comes to that.
I mean, that's fair. I mean, I see your point, especially how many times we've seen, Robbie come in and then we can't get a play call in, and then we have a delay game.
And that's not Robbie's fault, by the way.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, that's not Robbie's fault. And I'm not even saying all this is Robbie. I think the main thing with me, and then I'll stop. I think literally the main thing with me is they have not put enough on tape of Robbie throwing, and that may be Robbie's fault or not, to where defenses literally don't have to worry about that. And so I do think that's why his read option is probably not working as well as Thorne's. However, when he's come in the red zone, he's done pretty well. I just don't know that the negative, I think, is greater than the positive of bringing him in my opinion. So I would say just keep Thorne rolling. However, everything you said is also very correct. And if you're gonna do it and you do it in the red zone, I am okay with that. I don't
think you should pull it out anywhere other than the red zone.
Yeah, if you want to do it in the red zone, look, whatever we are doing in the red zone's working because we are pretty high in percentage. So I'm okay with whatever they're doing in the red zone. But I think we both agree on this. Stop doing it at the 50-yard line or 40, right? Yeah, and I think we did. We did this game. We didn't do that.
Right.
So.
Yeah, there was only, I think, one play that I can think of that Robbie was subbed in there. He did his job. He ran, got us a first down. I mean, that's, I think, what he originally came in there for. And at that point, so again, kind of minor thing, coaching, it was a run for Robbie, and he came running to the sideline of Auburn. So it was an easy transition right after he got us a first down. Hey, Peyton, get back out there, keep the drive going. It was just like essentially a one play, one and done, get your first down, move on. And I was like, I'm okay with that. But in most situations, I haven't necessarily seen that, why you would bring in one over the other, and just kind of change up the flow. Who wasn't a flow? Jarquez. He had 144 yards. Are you kidding me? I love that. Like, you got to be loving that kind of game for Jarquez. I mean, he was just going off. He was catching the ball, had a couple catches. He just felt like that was Jarquez. I mean, we had glimpses of it last game with a long breakout run. It just felt like we haven't seen that out of Jarquez in a while.
I agree. I mean, I don't know what's, obviously missed some practice time. He missed the first game. But when he's been in there, it just until last week against Ole Miss, it just hasn't looked like the intensity that we had come to expect from him. He's on fire right now. I mean, he's caught several passes. He did his little patented leap over a Mississippi State
the hurdle
defender.
guy. That was awesome.
Yeah, and that was a key catch he made there. That was right before halftime. We put up another 7 points, so he caught it. He's starting to catch out of the backfield. He's just got great body control. I mean, you look at one of his longer runs. I mean, he gets two people try to arm tackle him at the line of scrimmage, and he's able to get out of that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of that Judkins stuff. Like, that's God given. You can't teach that.
Right.
And
I mean, that's the kind of stuff that, like, Hugh Freeze preseason, why he said Jarquez is probably the best running back he's ever coached.
Right.
It's that kind of stuff. And I feel like up until last week, I was like, where's Jarquez been?
Yep. 100%.
Like, he's averaging, like, feels like 2-3 yards a carry. Every time he gets the ball, he's not getting even a first down, it felt like. And it's just like, what's going on here? And Jarquez, this game and last game, we're like, this is the Jarquez that we've known for the last 2 years at Auburn. A couple other wide receivers / running backs that really played really well. Damari Austin, we had him coming back after an injury, and I know he only got 4 carries, but I mean, early on in the season, he seemed like he was kind of the clear number 2 right behind Jarquez in the running back room. But we did also have Battie and Jeremiah Cobb also play pretty darn well, kind of in their own backup roles. Cobb with that amazing kind of over-the-shoulder catch in the end zone, and great pass by Peyton Thorne. I mean, Peyton had some really good touchy passes this game. And not to mention, I forgot about this. There was one, it almost looked like a Patrick Mahomes kind of play that Peyton had, so I wanted to throw that out. He kind of got a guy jumping up, and then he kind of threw it around the guy. It was great.
I heard somebody, I don't remember, that was another podcaster, but I honestly can't remember, but it was talking about how, like, that showed you how comfortable Thorne was in that game, right? Like, an uncomfortable quarterback there just throws that pass anyway, and it gets batted down. No, he pump faked. But I think we got to give a little more time on the pass to Cobb. That is our freshman running back, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think that was one of the prettiest passes I've seen. A beautiful fade.
Yeah.
Cobb being a freshman running back, running the correct route, making the catch. That was the only play he played, I think, or the only touch he got. So that's a pretty good day.
Mm-hmm.
That was a beautiful play and a great play design.
Yeah. So what's kind of interesting, and this is kind of wrapping in the wide receivers into this, was we had 11 wide receivers that were targeted in this game. And to some that may sound a little crazy, very high number. That's the kind of stuff, against a nobody, that seems about right. But this is Mississippi State. It's another SEC opponent. And we had 11 guys targeted, lots of different wide receivers, tight ends, running backs targeted in the air. And to me, that doesn't seem that outlandish because we don't have a clear, wide receiver number 1 that is our go-to. I mean, we have the closest thing is probably Rivaldo Fairweather, and even some games I feel like he's kind of non-existent. So, other guys have to stand up. So I wanted to kind of have a quick conversation about what you saw from the wide receiver room and why was this game different? Is that something we can carry into other games? So what's your thoughts on the receiver room and where they're at?
I really think it all started with tempo, and then I think it got into a rhythm, and everybody was confident, right? It's like a baseball team when there's times where nobody can hit, right? And then a few guys start hitting, and then everybody hits. Same thing here. I think the tempo helped. I think the belief in the game plan and letting Thorne rip it, and then a few guys get open, and then more guys start getting open, and then that opens up the deep route to Javarius, and I just felt like and it's so easy, and it could have totally been because it was Mississippi State, but I really felt like we were one of our own worst enemies those 4 games, and we played tight. I felt like Gus would do this with his quarterbacks a lot. Well, like he would get so harp on them so bad about not throwing picks that like they would like people always joke he had all these 4-stars and 5-stars come through and then they didn't pan out. I think sometimes they got in their head too much. Like I'm scared to let it loose. We were doing that, and in this game, Thorne was not scared to let it loose. He was given the keys. He was confident, and the receivers were responding to that.
Yeah.
And give props to our receivers, and really throughout the year, even when they haven't gotten separation, they pretty much catch the ball pretty well. I felt like we may have had a few drops, but it
hasn't been as bad as I feel like
no.
it was with Harsin.
It has
felt
not.
Like our wide receivers, things would be perfectly thrown and drop the ball.
Absolutely. So everybody did their part, and I think it was contagious, and it's confidence, and we needed that badly, and we were going to have to go create it because it wasn't going to fall in our lap, and they did. They went and created that. They killed it a little bit in the second half, but I think that was by design. I think you can push that off as saying, hey, we went very conservative. So yeah, I mean, I think that ultimately, AJ, I think a lot of this has probably been there. A few players have been doing their job at receiver all year on several plays. Today or Saturday, everybody was doing their job. Everybody was running the right route. Everybody was on the same page, and I think it was mostly because it was contagious.
Yeah, no, 100%. I felt like not only was Peyton confident in what he was doing, the wide receivers looked confident and I'm running the right route, and Peyton knows I'm running the right route and where to throw the ball. And that kind of resulted in, if you look at Peyton Thorne's numbers, I mean, we haven't even really talked about his numbers, but he was 77% passing, 20 of 26, which was a career high for him. And, man, just when that kind of stuff is happening, that's when you're feeling really good, especially kind of to finish out this year. To me, it's like most teams kind of figure out whatever the offensive identity is, within the first like 4 or 5 games. I feel like this year, just because of how much changeover of players there have been from the transfer portal and just Hugh Freeze and his staff not necessarily knowing the players because they didn't recruit them, that's made it tough to figure out what this offense is going to look like. And here we are, 8 games in, and I'm feeling much better about the offense than I was even just a couple weeks ago.
Real quick, I don't even know I don't know all these stats that go into it, but if I told you Peyton Thorne would have a pro football focus grade of 90.2 in an SEC football game before Saturday, what would you have said?
No, that's ridiculous. No.
Like they're harsh. Just to give you an idea, Jarquez was the next highest at 79.4.
Jarquez was only a 79?
So
that tells you how harsh it is.
Yeah, Jarquez was 79.4. Peyton Thorne was 90.2.
Wow.
Like there is nobody in the B's on our. It goes from 90 to Jarquez is the second highest at 79. Javarius Johnson just as the last one, he was a 72.9.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, he didn't have that many. I think he was only in the game, I heard, somewhere in the play range of like 15 to 20 times, 15 and 20 plays. Like he was still kind of limited because of his injury. But his, when he got targeted, guess what? That long pass, and he had another, which I'll kind of shout out. He had a funny, if you go watch the catch, he almost did like a little barrel roll, like slow motion midair, and I was like, this feels like a kind of a movie where he's just jumping in the air and rolling over. But hey, it made it work.
Whatever it takes, man.
Right. So a couple more things before we get out of here. Defense, we've already kind of just discussed this, but bend but don't break was the main thing that they were doing. And, despite the lack of depth, I think Ron Roberts handled the defense and rotating guys in and out pretty well. And, we're at the point where you only got a handful of regular season games left. You can probably, have a little bit more, pin your ears back, have some more fun on defense. And, I feel like it's been pretty fun already, this defense causing so many turnovers. And, that could be really fun kind of in this second half of this season. Another few things. Obviously, Eugene Asante having a really good day. A few other players. Marcus Harris had a defensive holding, but, next play he comes back, gets a quarterback hurry. So, love to see kind of a bounce back after making a mistake, coming back, help your team. Okay. I talked about it, I think, last week, but having Keontae Scott back is way bigger than I think a lot of people think. Having him back in the secondary is so big. He ended up having 7 solo tackles, and he had a tackle for loss and a pass breakup. I mean, on defense, besides Eugene Asante, it was Keontae Scott all day. He was early and often hitting players, and he just knew where the ball was going, and he was going to hit the guy. And that's what you love to see in your secondary, kind of plugging those holes, which, again, slowed down Mississippi State a lot. Kept them out of the end zone for most of the game. So another kind of shout out, Zion Puckett with the interception. Nehemiah Pritchett almost had an interception as well. It's kind of like a fun time, I feel like, for our defense right now. We're doing things. It seems like things are clicking. And, as long as we stay generally healthy, I mean, defense is going to keep us in these games.
So I didn't know this. When Puckett intercepted it, I thought I heard the broadcaster say that kept a 17-game streak alive for turnovers. I was like, "There's no way."
Really?
Yeah, and there is a way. That is true. That we have 17 straight games of a takeaway.
That
17.
is amazing.
Yeah, that I can't believe that is the first time I've heard that. But yeah, that kept it alive. So 17 straight games of having a turnover on defense.
That's pretty impressive, considering I feel like some of our defensive coordinators were just kind of like all right, we're going to sit back, bend but don't break kind of feel and not really be that aggressive and causing turnovers. And even last year, some of the defense, we were just going after it. Definitely this year. And that's a big props to guys like Jalen Simpson out there causing, so many interceptions this year. And, I'm sure plenty more to come. A few other things, special teams, Oscar Chapman, he had an average of 47.2 yards per punt. He had 5 punts. If you're averaging near 50 yards a punt, you're having a really good day. He did have, I think, there was at least one that went into the end zone, not the greatest, but all the others, he even had one that was just airmailed right to the 3-yard line. Jalen Simpson catches it midair, and you're like, that's beautiful. Like, that's exactly what you practice. That's what you draw up. It's a perfectly kicked distance-wise punt, and your guy catches it. And, it's perfect. A couple other just notes from here. So, I don't know about you, but I'm slightly concerned about kickoffs for Auburn. And I know Alex McPherson has been really solid for us field goal kicking, but I have seen way too many kicks already this season. Kickoffs go out of bounds. And to me, that's almost inexcusable in that you just give the ball to the other team at the 35. Like, am I overreacting to that piece? Because, that just keeps annoying me. And we had another one this game from Alex McPherson. Is that an overreaction, or is that justified?
Yeah, I don't think it's an overreaction. I think you're right. I think that that should not happen. I don't know what's causing it. I mean, I feel like there's been inconsistency of putting it through the end zone, not putting it through the end zone in the same game. That's led to some decent returns as well. So I don't know. Maybe there's. I don't know. Hey, did he do kickoffs last year? I'm trying to think.
He did. Yeah, especially
Anders.
when Anders was, he had some injury stuff with his ACL, still recovering, I think.
Yeah, I think we probably give him a little bit of a pass on that because I think he's perfect on the year for field goals. But you're right. I mean, that could cost you a game. So yeah, I agree with you. That needs, whatever's causing that needs to be fixed.
Yeah. So, any other final thoughts before we get out of here, Jared?
Nope. Just hey, we got our first SEC win, so that's a good feeling. Let's go. Let's keep that momentum going and go get another one, man.
For sure. I did look because I was curious. I like to sometimes look back at score predictions that we made. Preseason, I had us winning by 14 points. I changed it
Look
to
at
10.
you.
So,
I changed mine to 1,
Man.
so you're and I would have done 0.5, but that's not allowed. So
I know it was just after a week where everything just didn't seem to go right. And but hey, here we are. Feels
you
like
should have
our
stuck
offense
with your
is back
gut,
on
AJ.
track.
You're
No.
14. Stick with your gut,
Right.
man.
I probably should. All righty, Jared. Before we get out of here, how can people stay in touch with you?
You can find me on Facebook under my name, Jared Davis.
And you can find me on Twitter, AJAY, JAY_. It's always great to be an Auburn Tiger and War Eagle.
War Eagle.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode on the E2C Network. On your way out, I want to remind you to stop by e2cnetwork.com. It's your one-stop shop for all our content across our podcast, YouTube channel, and much more. To stay up to date with us, make sure you're following social media accounts such as Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. While our content here may always be Auburn sports heavy, if it's orange and blue, it's what we do. War Eagle.